to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I'm excited to welcome the talented Kathy Kuo back to the show. Kathy is the founder of Kathy Kuo Home. She is a recognized TV personality and a celebrated interior designer. P.S. She's also a great friend of mine. Kathy has 20 plus years of experience in the home industry and now serves as a speaker and activist for female entrepreneurs. In episode 190, Kathy joined us to discuss all aspects of Kathy Kuo Home and how she founded the e-commerce brand. And when I sat down with her to decide what we were going to talk about today, we realized we can go in so many different directions. Kathy has expertise in many areas of design and in running a business. But when she raised the topic of how to identify your core values, I knew that was it. The thing about core values is that they are so easy to overlook. You might be in survival mode and values aren't really on your to-do list. Or you might be thinking, oh, okay, values are great, but I don't have time to worry about them. You might even be on board with the idea of doing the work to uncover and actually decide on your values. But the practical aspect of sitting down and identifying them has fallen through the cracks. Or maybe you took the time to write them down and you filed them away, never to be seen or thought of again. The truth is, your core values should be embodied in the way you interact with partners, employees, and clients. And they should absolutely be present in how you hire, how you provide feedback, and how and why you fire. Before Kathy and I get into core values, have you heard about the Power Talk Friday tour? I hope you have. The New Jersey stop is being sponsored by Schwartz Design Showroom. And on May 22nd, 2024, I will be at the Schwartz Design Showroom in Edison, New Jersey for an all-day masterclass in Business 101, with a session both in the morning and the afternoon. In the morning, how to negotiate successfully with confidence. And in the afternoon, how to grow your business through economic uncertainty. And guess what? Schwartz Design Showroom is giving away 2 seats to the Power Talk Friday New Jersey tour. Yes, they are. How incredible is this? Now, you have to be with us to win, but 2 lucky individuals will get free tickets to the New Jersey stop on June 7th, 2024 in Florham Park, New Jersey. Experts for the New Jersey event include Peter Lang, the designer CPA, Vita Vykoska, window treatment professional extraordinaire, Jessica Harling, the people and process guru, Nicole Heimer, brand strategist and website developer, and of course, I will be there as well. Go to powertalkfriday.com to learn more and buy your ticket, or join me at Schwartz Design Showroom next week, May 22nd, 2024, for your chance to win a ticket. We will put the link in for the RSVP for the Schwartz Design Showroom event in the show notes, and of course, the links are in my Instagram as well. All right, let's hear from Kathy Kuo, what she has to say about how to identify your core values and, more importantly, how to put them to work in your business. Hey, Kathy, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you so much for having me, LuAnn.
I have to tell you how much I've enjoyed this last 8, 9, 10 months where we've reconnected again. I looked at it today. You were originally on the podcast, episode 190. I don't know what number you are, but we're almost at 1,000 by the time this podcast airs. And I remember my word is smart lady. I remember being super impressed by you, but we really didn't go out of our way to stay in touch, either one of us. I don't think it was a negative thing. But these last 8, 9 months, we seem to be in each other's world again and circling. And I just want to tell you how much I've enjoyed it, to tell you the truth.
Me too. And thank you for, I know that you attended one of our trade webinars as well. And that was definitely one of our more well attended shows. And actually, it's not even a show, it's just like a Zoom.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I really, really appreciate that too. But honestly, like we know so many of the same people. Like I'm surprised
yeah,
that we're not just like hanging out and like
I know. It's
having a
crazy.
glass of wine and talking about like, I don't know, fun things that's going on in the industry.
It's so true. It's so true. And so the thing is, I think the most difficult thing about this particular interview is, as I've gotten to know you over the last several months, know you again, it's like, whoa, there is like legit 5 or 6 different topics that I know you could kill it on, whether it's scaling your firm or, hiring, firing, criteria, KPIs, all the things. And it's funny because on one hand, I am settling on a topic that I do think that most listeners will be like, oh, that's a soft topic. You've got Kathy Kuo. Why didn't you go for scaling or something like that? But Kath, I know that you share this with me, that your business is built on your core values. And so many of us skip this step when we start our business. We just like get our widget, get our talent, get our bookkeeper, and we go. And I'm not going to tell anybody that Vinny and I sat down and when we opened WindowWorks in 1982, decided on our core values on day one.
Mm,
But I can tell you that over the first 5 to 7 years, we instinctively developed them. And at that point, the shift went to hiring and running the business off of them. And so
beautiful.
it's a hindsight lesson. And I know that you and I both know that whether we are at an event and we meet a designer who's been in business 1 minute or 15 years, it's likely a step that's been skipped. Do you
Mm.
agree?
Potentially, it's probably lingering, but it's not been like sort of, I'll call it memorialized.
Right.
And it hasn't probably been like something that's like part of like their hiring and firing practice. But, and that's okay, like I certainly like learned about it much later on in life too. But, and I will say that I think this is most applicable after you have your first employee because like you can write your own core values about yourself and you can go live those core values, but then it's like a little weird. So I'll say that this is like most applicable when you're looking for your second employee and when you're trying to like define what your brand is because your core
Hmm.
values is actually what your brand is. It was interesting. I was listening to a podcast with the founder of Room and Board, and I
Mm.
love him and I love his business. And I may be quoting the numbers wrong, but I think it's an $800 million business,
Whoa.
profitable, debt free, and their core value is really something that like you can see in the external user experience as well. It is a very clean, honest website. They don't have trendy products. They have all the data on the PDP, which is product detail page. They're really thoughtful for like how they do their dimensioning. Every little detail like speaks to the fact that they are extremely transparent with like how they present the data. And by the way, that's exactly what the CEO is. And so when you think about sort of like how do you get to like 800 million dollars, um, and that would be amazing if all companies could, but it really is predicated on like, are you hiring and firing based on these core values, and how does that translate actually even to your external customers? Because actually your customers buy, and your clients, your interior design clients, actually buy your core values. Does that make sense? They're coming to you
Yes.
because of your values, whether or not you're like explicitly saying it or not. So
And that's why I feel like it is such an important conversation, because I do know for a fact that many just think, oh, well, that's great if I tell everybody that, we're the go to people or we believe in customer service or whatever. But it's that translation of we hire and fire based on it because when you hire and fire based on it, then you know the people that work for you. And this actually leads into a conversation about scaling. You cannot scale if you've not established this. And people want to know, how many thousands of dollars do I need? And how do I know if I have them to hire? And it's like, take a step back. Like, is the foundation of the business built? Right?
Yeah, totally. And so when we thought about this, we kind of like looked around. Maybe we had like maybe 3 or 5 employees at this time, maybe less. We kind of looked around and we were like, okay, so what do we have all in common? That's really a unique identifier for us.
Oh,
That's
love
like
it.
not really like like being like caring about customer service is like one thing, but like being deeply customer obsessed is another. And then really the value there could be like we always put the customer first, and that could be one of your core values. And so, and that's, by the way, like kind of not even a great one, because like who isn't customer obsessed, but like another one for you could be like we sort of decision make around the concept of empathy, right? Like that is like
Mm,
do you and when times are tough, do you make decisions leading with empathy? That could be a core value. One of ours is being a limitless learner, and what that means is like that you are striving to increase your own goals. You are, saying to yourself, like at the end of the day, like there's a a potential that I could be better, even if it's 1% every single day, that I could be better, that I could be more kind, that whatever it is that I'm just focused on being a limitless learner. So that's definitely one of ours. And I will say time and time again, when we have to evaluate employees in terms of like, it's we're whatever it may be, we're doing our annual review season. We go through their core values, and our managers actually go through and they do. And this is, by the way, this is not like I did not come up with this. I'll just say that this is like part of the EOS system, which is the
yep.
entrepreneur organization system, where we basically we line up our core values and our core principles on the top and the employees down the left. And so anytime that you exhibit this value, you get a 1. But if you exhibit this value all the time, you get a 2. And if you never exhibit this value or this principle, you get a 0. And so you actually tally it all up, and every single department has their own benchmark. Like you got to be at an 18 or you got to be at a 17, because it's actually, we hire for how you think and how you do something. It's not even for the
Right.
technicality, right? Like we should just
Right.
kind of assume you know how to do AutoCAD, you kind of already know how to like do a rendering, but it's how you strategically think, it's how you decision make, which is the most important. And if you don't know how to think about something, are you going to go find the answers yourself, which goes back to the are you a limitless learner? So that's kind of how we think about it. But like it's so easy once you like are unclear on whether or not you have the right fit of an employee, to go back to this number and be like, well, they're making their benchmark, I think they're okay. And then
Yeah.
the next one is really the gets it, wants it, and capable of doing it, the GWC. Do you get it? Do you want it? Are you capable of doing it? And if any one of those is a no, then unfortunately it's an automatic, like this is not a good fit. You're not going to be able to be successful here. So writing down your core values, establishing what they are early on, speaking to them. What I do in reviews is we actually ask them to tell stories around the values. And so I'm like, please write out all the times you've demonstrated these values and how you have demonstrated these. And not only that, it's not enough to demonstrate it, but you also have to share it with your team too. So you have to demonstrate it to your team, and you need your team to demonstrate it to their teams as well. And so it's like, it's not only like talking about it, it's memorializing it, talking about it, educating about it, and then passing it down. And so that's how it spreads, so that like you kind of have like, I'll call it like a very, very well orchestrated, like it's harmony. Does that make sense? Because
Yes. Yes.
everybody actually lives and breathes the same ideals, and that's what you need. That's what you that's nirvana. I mean, and of course, like I don't think it's that easy to get there. I mean, that's an ideal, but like that's kind of how to frame it up.
Well, and what I love about it is that, I'm sure the number fluctuates here and there, but you run about 250 employees, if I recall from our conversation in
So that has
January.
come down. That has come down. We have probably a little less than 200 at this point.
Okay, that's like about 205 more than most of us, okay? You know, like
It feels like a lot though, LuAnn. I mean, not gonna lie. It's like, oh my gosh, it feels.
200, 250, like, really? Are you kidding me? Like, I that's like, to me, both are unfathomable
But
to
do you
me.
know? But do you know? It's like you don't like notice your kids growing every single day, and like you don't go like they don't turn from like 3 to like 21 overnight. Even though sometimes you look at photos and like Apple Photos reminds you, like, oh my god, how are you 3? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
so little, but like it's such a gradual thing that you don't like feel
Yes,
the increase. So like when you say it, I'm like, oh my god, that's a lot of payroll. But like at the same
yes.
time, I'm like, I guess, yeah,
Well, but my point on it is that what I know is many of us have experienced, whether we have a team of 3 or a team of 15, and having the disharmony on
mm,
the team.
yeah,
And what I have learned, my hindsight lesson, because I didn't have EOS 40 years ago and, all the things, is my hindsight lesson is when I think back to all the different um what's the word I want? Like conglomerations, like, during this period of our time, these were the 4 sets of eyeballs with us. During this period of time, these were the 20 sets of eyeballs with us during this period. And anytime I look back on that history of the growing of the company up and down over the years, when it wasn't right and it didn't feel right, I now, in hindsight, can go because we had that one person or those 2 people that were not living, breathing examples of alignment with our core values.
sure,
Like, to your point, like I love that. Well, are you a limitless learner? Because in when you said it's like if you don't know how to do something, a limitless learner goes and figures it out before they just say, "Hey, I don't know how to do it." Like that's like makes me crazy. Don't just tell me, don't come ask me to tell you how to do it. And so it's such a positive spin on do your own homework.
I
Like do
know,
your own homework. Like get it, like show up as a grown up for crying out loud. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like
and yeah,
grown ups
totally.
figure it out.
Totally. I always say that, like, if you can actually come to me with a solution that's,
Yeah.
like, better than my own, like, then you no longer need a manager because, like, if you
Yeah.
still need me to manage you, then, like, we long term will have a problem, right? Like, you need to get to a point where, like, you actually just, like, are pushing yourself along and, like, you come to me with, like, ideas of, like, this is how I can be better. And I give you the resources and I give you the agency and I cheer you along and I communicate all this to the rest of the staff. That's all my job is. I'm here to basically give you a path and help you get there.
Yeah.
Um, but in terms of like what you were saying about like, looking back on like times in which it was like hard with like specific employees where like it didn't work out or people in your staff, I'll also say that like if you there's something that like we one of our core values is actually leading with empathy. And that kind of almost sounds like, okay, well, we're just going to be like nice and we're going to decision make around it, being nice. But that's actually not really what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like, there's something about when you create a culture of vulnerability. And this is a really hard one. When you create a culture of vulnerability and empathy, you're allowed to say the things that you need to say, and the other person on the receiving end will not take offense. And by the way, when you
Mm.
have great feedback loops, that's when you grow. That I can say,
Mm.
LuAnn, I love you like a sister, right? I got to tell you, but you got to stop falling asleep on Zoom. And so you're not going to like, you're not going to get mad at me because you know they deeply care about you. And so the
Yes.
care has to come first. The vulnerability has to come first. You have to be able to model it. You have to be able to like, say to folks like, you know what, I don't actually know what I'm doing here and I need your help. Will you come step on my toes? I'm asking you to step on my toes. I'm asking you to actually show me how to do this. And so when that
Yeah.
happens, like then you kind of like you can say the things that you need to say, like and start moving, right? Like
Right.
um a lot of our meetings, we end the meeting where we score the meeting. And this is kind of an EOS thing too, but we've kind of adopted it on our own way. And we score the meetings, our leadership meetings, based on content, value, and depth. And so
Mm.
the content is like, what did we talk about today? Did we talk about like the right things? Like, there's urgency and there's importance, right? Like, did we talk about the right
Yes.
quadrant of urgency and important things? And then we talk about like the value. Like, did you personally get value out of this? Like, let's just say like we're talking about like finance or whatever, and the guy sitting in marketing is like, I don't find this valuable. Then you know what? Leave. Like, actually, like your time is better spent doing something else. Like, you should not
Right.
be here. And so it's the value to everyone. The last one is depth. And this is actually my favorite one. The depth is not like how like much we've solved this problem or how deep did we go onto this problem, but like how like did we feel comfortable saying the things that we needed to say in this meeting? Like, was I
Ah.
comfortable saying, you know what I think actually is the problem here? And I think I have a solution, like being able to go there. And that is predicated on two things: leading with empathy, a culture of vulnerability and understanding, and a culture of requiring a very, very tight feedback loop. So that is actually another one of our core values, is actually like that we embrace feedback. And by the way, that is the
Mm.
hardest thing to do. The
Yeah.
hardest thing to do is take feedback and even give feedback, because that's actually a lost art. Like, how do I tell you, LuAnn, like, you got to stop
Yeah.
falling asleep on Zoom because it's like
Yeah.
really hurting my feelings.
It's not a good look for the rest of the
It's
employees,
not a
sweetie.
good look. Yeah. Right.
Right? It's like the thing about it is that, you know, to your point, if you want to have like a team of 200, this is non-negotiable. How could you can't possibly know every person, monitor every person, know if they're all showing up and representing your name. Your name is on the door. It's Kathy Kuo. It's not like, I don't know, New York City design. It's Kathy Kuo on the door. And so the thing is, it's critically important, but it's the same whether we have 5 employees. Like at WindowWorks, when we were 5 employees, one of those employees is going to be a salesperson walking into somebody's house, another is going to be an installer. And are you functioning? And I have to say, when that was presented to me, that EOS concept of the core values are established, it was funny because the first time I did the exercise for LuAnn Niagara Inc., the core values, you sort of can do this like a list of, all your ideals and aspirations and everything, right? And it's like, this is
Wait,
who
can
we
I ask
are. This,
you, how much of those were actually your values? Like, weren't
right?
you talking about yourself? Were you talking about yourself? Were you
Yes,
talking
that's what I'm
about like
saying.
maybe your partner or like your favorite person? Maybe it's your husband.
Yeah. Like, and the thing was, what was funny was when I had the 10, 11, 9, whatever it was, and I intellectually understood there can't be 10 of these. Like, this is silly. But I'm like, I can't think of it that way, blah, blah, blah. And then the integrator that I was working with, he looked at me and he said, I love all of these. These are all pieces of your brand. I 1000% recognize all of these qualities in who you are and how you show up in the world and the way your brand shows up in the world. But this was the money line. He said, but what are the things that you would fire on? What are the things that you would hire and fire on? And that was like the lightning bolt of clarity for me, because
Mm,
I was like, oh, gotcha. What is so important to me that you cannot be in my organization if you're not doing this? And that was also when I started to do the exploration of the hindsight of
mm,
all of the, you know, 70, 80, 100 employees that I've had over 40 years, never more than 25 at a time, but, over the years. And I was like, oh, see, when we were trying to put the square peg into the round hole for too many weeks and months, it's because this person should have been fired based on this behavior that
mm,
was out of line with a core value. And I have to tell you, and this is the thing why I wanted to discuss it with you, because I know that you're so absolutely brilliant at executing it, is it is so freeing. Even if you are hiring your third employee, your fourth employee, to your point, when you sit down with the evaluations, it's like, I've got the job description and I've got the core values here. Let's scorecard this, sweetie. You're either good or you're not. And then it,
yeah.
it doesn't become like, you're just not working out. It's like, you're clearly not working out. We've
Yeah.
had this conversation multiple times. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Actually, LuAnn, it is so, to your point, it's so freeing. And like during a review season, you know exactly how you're being evaluated. And part of the EOS system is you have KPIs. And so, like, let's just say, for example, you're a drafts person, like, at an interior design firm. And like, like I'm an interior designer and I have a firm and, I have like a, CAD person reporting into me, and I'm going to define what his or her scorecard could be. And it could be like, CAD's drafted, like it could be speed, it could be accuracy, it could be approvals, whatever it may be. And so like you kind of like map out like what are the key drivers. That's the most important piece on the scorecard, and like every business is kind of different, right? And then the piece that's like the easiest part is like then you just like write down your core values. And so you have a qualitative and you have a quantitative way to basically evaluate all of your employees, and they know exactly how they're being evaluated. And so there's no
Exactly.
question about being like, okay, well, I kept falling asleep on Zoom, but like, why was I getting fired for that? Like, it's a terrible example, but you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Right.
it's
Yes.
crystal clear. You know exactly what you're being evaluated on when you're hired and fired based on this not roadmap. I'm sorry, based on
Scorecard.
the scorecard, qualitative and quantitative. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to your other example, right? Like if the draftsperson in your firm, a KPI is, how much you pump out every week, and this person is supposed to complete drafts, 10 drafts a week. I have no idea what's capable. Never been
Yeah.
a drafts person,
Yeah.
never been an interior
Yeah.
designer, right?
And
Like,
that's probably a
but
terrible KPI, to be clear.
yeah, 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 right. But like, or like, to your point, like they're error free or whatever. Like maybe a thing on drafts persons is that they're the last person to make sure if the room is 10 foot by 10 foot, that the actual thing is 10 foot by
Accuracy.
10 foot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because the field measure person is going to go out and measure it. And then maybe that's their ownership. Right. But the thing is, and then the other, like you said, the qualitative core value of being able to accept feedback and being empathy, both in giving and receiving. If their direct manager has been meeting with them month to month and saying, hey, you're behind, your accuracy rate is 6 out of 10. It's got to be 8 out of 10. That's the scorecard metric. And they're each time pushing back. Well, it's not my fault. This person did it. That person did it. Like, to me, that is a breakdown in
Yeah.
I'm not receiving empathy, and I'm not a limitless learner because I'm ready to blame it on everybody else. So there you have two core values being smashed to smithereens, plus a KPI that's not going to be met.
Yeah.
Like, this is my point, this freedom. There's no angst anymore
By
as the
the way,
business owner.
the KPI piece, you can actually get better on. The core value piece, I have rarely seen it get better. It
Right.
almost
Like, you
only gets
embody
worse.
it or you don't, right?
Exactly right. And that's why you have to hire based on it. And once you hire based on it, then you're okay. But like, can you be a faster drafts person? Can you be more of an accurate drafts person? Can you do better designs? These are all like doable, but like being more of a limitless learner potentially could happen, but most often it doesn't. Does that make sense?
No, I 1000% agree with you. It doesn't have to be something that person like, wow, that's crazy, because as a human, I have a core value of being a limitless learner. Like, somebody isn't going to necessarily, I know that about themselves, but it will be there and they will embrace it if it's their nature and it comes to them. And that is the whole point of when you look around, whether you have 3 people in your team or 200 people in your team, when everybody has that same, this is how we think, this is how we roll, this is how we act. And like I said, I've noticed it with WindowWorks as we've gone from 3 of us to 25 or 30 to 10 to 15, back to 12, all the things. You can always place it when the core values were not aligned.
Totally.
One thing, I cannot think of an instance where, because you can have the most technically adept installer, or you can have the best salesperson, but if you are not in sync with the rest of the team, you're not in sync
Those are
because your core
actually the
values.
most dangerous hires because, like,
Right?
they're so good technically, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, they could crush it with this, or they could scale this, or they could, I don't know, install like 500 windows in a year, or whatever it may be." And you hire them, and then they erode all your entire culture.
They're the
And
cancer.
yeah, they're the
Yeah.
cancer. But I think it's interesting. We recently in August we acquired a 3PL, which for those who don't understand, it's basically third party logistics company. So it's a warehouse distribution and packaging facility. We have some, it's very very unsexy. Though I think it's kind of sexy, but I think it's for most people it's like that is so boring. Um, but what was interesting is when we acquired that business, it was crystal clear that like they had not set up anything. And but I had to really think about like, well, what makes that business what it is? And so our managing director who had been there for, I don't know, almost like a whole year, like that's when I sat down and I was like, all right, now that you have like all the right people in the right seats, like let's sit down and figure this out. And it's so interesting because all the core values in that business, which is called Unpack Forwarding, is totally different than Kathy Kuo Designs. It's an
Ah.
entirely different value system. Theirs is based on reliability, like
Mm,
showing up, like no matter what, show up. Like that is
right.
so important.
We have a
Um,
delivery scheduled. We're going to go get it or we're going to bring it. We're
and it's
not going
also
to.
it's accountability. It's like it's all of it. It's like show up, take accountability, even if it's not your fault, you still take 110% accountability. You never push it off. So it's like it's kind of these types of um I'll call it values that really impact embody. And so it was interesting when we had to establish that and then look at the staffing that way versus, our current staffing, which is um like a little bit more like based on like, we need really, really high level strategic thinkers. We need people who like communicate really, really well. We need people who collaborate extremely well cross functionally and like know how to work cross functionally. That is like so
Mm.
important. But that's not important at Impact, right? Like they don't need a lot of cross functional support and work. Like, so, anyways, yeah.
Yeah. No,
So many
and
learnings for me on that too.
yeah, well, and I love that perspective, right? Because that's also what makes it so that you can't just say, here's the typical core values for all interior design firms or all businesses. Like it
Sure.
has to be
What's unique to you?
determined. Yeah.
What's
Like,
unique to you?
what you are, what is your mission for your business? What is your, thing as a human? How do you want to show up? And then what is the things that will make that business flourish, right?
Mhm.
And like you said, and Kathy Kuo Design, it's the feedback loop, it's the empathy, it's the limitless learning. So the thing is, and I think the final piece, which has been said, but I need to emphasize,
Mm,
is that to your point, you cannot teach typically someone to embody a core value that they at their core cannot.
mm,
And you might find that rock star that is an amazing, whatever the talent is you're hiring for. And in the hiring process, it might not be revealed that they don't share this. Like, it's not necessarily, look, my cousin Eileen is an expert on hiring and organizational behavior development.
amazing.
And so she does work with you. These are your, you've come to me, you've told me these are your core values, this is your mission, these are the kinds of questions that we're going to ask in the interview to reveal if this person is a person that is a limitless learner. Or but the thing is, it's still gray, right? Like we can craft our questions to speak to our core values, but number one, only if we know what they are.
Sure.
Number one, by the way,
Yeah.
big, that's the whole point of the
And
podcast.
and
Sit
by the way,
down
you
and
guys
do it
sit down and do it and like relook at it and think about it
and make
again
it
and
better. And yes,
yeah.
exactly, right? But the thing is, even when you have it all locked up and you have taken the time to establish your core values and get clear with yourself or your team if it already exists, then you develop your interview process to fish and find the people who
Sure.
align.
Sure.
There's people that are still going to get through, right? That they know how to say the right thing, or maybe
Mhm,
you missed something or
mhm,
whatever.
mhm.
But then, as you described, if the core values are not on a piece of paper at the bottom of your desk drawer and nobody knows, but they are living, breathing, every check-in, every weekly meeting, every, evaluation is the reiteration and the breathing of it. And therefore, when that super rock star person is consistently dropping a ball on a core value, they are no more surprised than you are. Like
Sure.
it gets to be the fifth, sixth, seventh time, and you're just like, okay, sweetie, this is not working out, is it? Because
Yeah.
this is the 15th time that you've been given feedback with empathy, and all you say is, yeah, but. And we don't do yeah, but here. Like, we don't do, but it's like, that's the thing. It's like, this is the freedom for you to have the business that you dream to have. But if
Totally.
you skip this step, you're just chasing your
It
tail,
feels
right?
like such a beautiful truth when you have this done and done well, and this truth carries through to everything you do. It's how you do your meetings, it's how you communicate to your team, it's how your team communicates to their team. It's literally in every little thing you do.
Yeah.
It literally permeates. And so when you are living that truth all the time, it feels easy. It feels harmonious. Does
Yes.
that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'll tell you one of the things, like at in addition to core values, over the years, Eileen, my cousin Eileen Hahn, has worked with us to establish, and I keep referring to WindowWorks because that is the bulk of my experience, right? And it was, our norms. What are our norms
Hmm.
as an ownership team and as a company,
Hmm.
right? And simple things like we will accept feedback with an open mind. We will
Hmm.
we speak to each other kindly, like weird little things like that.
Mm.
And what happens is you don't believe you need this, but you do it sometimes need it. And the thing is, if the norms are discussed on a regular basis over the course of many years of owning a business with other humans, there's going to be disruptions, there's going to be arguments, there's going to be confrontations. And what happens is what I've noticed is when we've seemed to have gotten at odds with each other, whoever it might be on the management team over the years, like a simple sentence was like, we need to have this meeting today because we are living outside of our company norms. We have,
Mm.
over the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks, regressed into
Yeah.
really not providing like
Yeah.
answers and like ignoring text messages and not coming to the meetings with the
Yeah.
things done. And
Yeah.
I've said the words, and I know it's because individually, multiple of us are feeling pissed, disappointed,
Yeah.
let down,
Yeah.
all the things. But we can't get back to this if we don't actually go, our company norms are that we
100%.
we come with our open mind and we talk these things through. And it's
Totally.
crazy
Yeah.
how it diffuses, five alpha dogs coming to a meeting. You
Right.
know what I'm
You're
saying?
you're not looking at the problem, you're looking at the business, and that's actually lovely. I'll also say that, like, the more you say them, the words do become reality. I mean, you know this from your everyday living, like, when you're like, "Oh my god, I'm so sad." Like, you feel sad. You just
Yes.
do. Like, words
Yes.
actually do become reality, and it's really, really powerful thing when you say it, when you speak it, and when it's written down. Um, the other piece that you spoke to, about, like, "Hey, we really need to have this meeting because we are living outside our norms." This really resonated with me. We have something kind of similar where we talk about where it's you're either above the line or you're below the line, and we actually
Mm,
define what below the line characteristics are. And believe it or not,
nice.
like, below the line characteristics could just be like you're apathetic. That's actually the
Yeah.
most dangerous one, is like that you don't
Yeah.
care, or that, like, you see something and you don't say something. And then there's above the line characteristics, and every time, like, we're going to go into like a really deep, what we call unpacking session, where we have to like unpack like a really, really large problem. We always go through, let's go through what are the above the line traits, what are the below the line traits, and I read through them and I go, okay, so today it is okay if we go below the line, and anytime it's fine. We all every single day we oscillate between being below the line and being above the line, and it's okay. It's just, if you are below the line, you're just not spending time above the line. That's all it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so if you catch yourself going below the line, it's also okay to just like step away and say, you know what, I'm finding myself that I'm going below the line, and I really need to kind of take a minute. And I'm sort of self-reflecting on, why am I reacting this way? And I think that's kind of the
Mm.
most important piece. Um, but yeah, I love the fact that, like, you guys call together meetings to talk about behavioral issues, because I think that, like, if you can unpack that, like, you kind of can solve anything. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
all
I
problems
mean,
are like human-based interaction problems. They're like never
yep.
like, "Oh, I don't know how to, like, do something." Does that make sense?
Yes. I would tell you in 42 years at WindowWorks, we've probably had to have five meetings like that
Mm.
where it's come to Jesus. Like, this is insanity. We're all walking around ignoring each other and like behind
Mm.
our backs flipping the bird. Like, we're just like
Ooh,
that mad.
ooh,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Where we're just,
yeah,
that
bad,
you
that's
get
bad.
dug in what you're right about, what you're wrong about, what this one's doing. And the thing is, it wasn't until Eileen really started to consciously bring this mechanism to life and teach us this that it doesn't have to get to that point anymore.
Mm,
Like before
yeah,
that, what it really was is you don't know how to get out of it. You're spiraling the drain and nobody can get out. Nobody's got a hand out. That's what it really has at only 4 or 5 times in the course of, 42 years in business felt like,
sure.
and what I also know is whether it's an employee that just is like functioning below the line, to use your language, for a week or 2 weeks or a month or a period of time, or it's management team that is not playing in the sandbox together. What I've also learned is the mechanism having core values and having company norms, to your point, takes it out of the personal. It's just like, let's just objectively recognize
Sure,
that we're running a race here and we don't have the horses anymore. We're all running on the track and the horses are sitting back at the gate. Like, what are we doing? This is not good, right? So it's an objective hello. But then it also is that mechanism for, I don't have to let it get to 15 steps below the line, right? When the norm is established, it's like, hey, you've been below the line for a couple of weeks now, buddy, what's going on? And
yeah,
what I've learned is a lot of times, if you're not all like when we've the 4 times, all management has been below the line, to
yep,
use your language,
yep,
like off track. But when it's just an individual employee or partner, it used to be that you just automatically internalize, like, well, what's going on here? Well, they're not listening to me and they're not this and blah, blah, blah. And a lot, what I've learned is sometimes just like have the and like something's going on at home, like
sure,
something, and they're just not able to come and say, like you said, I just need to step out. I know I'm functioning below the line and I'm in a circle and I can't get
sure,
out. Give
sure,
me a minute. I'm going to skip
sure,
this meeting for 15 minutes. Let me take a breath. Right. But it's that comes back to when the core values are established, your mission for the company is established, your norms are established, the types of people that you surround yourself. Now it's not, you did this every week. It's this an
yeah,
objective thing. It gets it out of that, you know, he said, she said. It's like,
totally.
here's the adjectives. Are you living these adjectives? I don't think so.
Right, right. Yeah. I'll also like to add that there's kind of another piece that we throw in for hiring and firing, and this is like kind of it was really helpful for me. It's called the Kolbe test. It's
Mm,
KOLBE test. You might know it, Luann. We do a combination of we do that one, and there's one another one that's escaping me right now. It'll come to me. But the Kolbe test is really interesting. It tests you on how you decision make and not what you
mm-hmm,
decision make on. And so, there's kind of like 4 bars, I'll call it, and you're scaled from like, I think 1 through 8. And the first one is fact finding
mm,
skills. And so that one would be, say, for example, like when you are cooking a new recipe, do you read through the recipe or do you just like scroll through
start
it and
going.
like you kind of like ad lib through it, right? So like how much do you sort of like follow and pay attention to the directions and like before you start something? So that's like your fact finding skills. The second one, which I think is really important for me as a entrepreneur and CEO, is the quick start piece. So quick start
Mm.
is like how comfortable you are with like flying this plane pretty blind and directionless.
And
Um,
not sure if you even have gas. Just
yeah,
let's just go.
yeah, like breaking
Kathy
down
said, take the plane from here to there. And you're just like, yeah, okay, give me the
yeah,
keys.
exactly right, exactly right. And so on the scale of 1 to 8, like I would say I fall in a like the 4 to 5 range, which is like I feel fairly comfortable. And what I've noticed about this is I tend to like to surround myself with people who score very low on it. And this is by
Meaning
design.
they don't need a lot of
No,
assurance with
no,
gas
no,
and all
no.
that, or they need a lot?
No, they do.
They need a lot.
They
Right. So
fact
they're your
find
check. They're
they
your
score
balance.
high on fact finding and they
Yes.
score low on quick start.
Yes.
That to
Yes.
me is like, this is a person who is ready to like, no, 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 okay, we got that. I know strategically where you're going. Let me spend another like couple days creating the plan,
Yep.
filling everything in around the plan, double checking the plan, the scenario planning, all the different ways that this could go wrong. And
You're
then
like,
we'll
great.
fly the
Just tell me
plane.
on Thursday that we're out the gate, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly right. So
yeah.
I think that's a really big piece, like, especially when you hire your first hire, like I always say, like, you
Mm,
don't want somebody who's just like you. Like if you have somebody who's also like fairly bullish and like highly strategic, but like, is and I'm a fairly good executor, but like I'll say as far as like execution and strategy goes, like I prefer the strategy. I have other people doing the execution, but like your first hire needs
1000%.
to be like a hardcore, amazing project manager execution, like somebody who just executes. In other words, your integrator,
Yep.
right? So the Kolbe report, I think, is a good one. I think the third one, the third Kolbe, which is the blue color, is your ability to operationalize and systematize. And so if
Mm,
I give you like a ton of
I'm like
garbage,
below the
Luann,
line on that.
like if I give you like, and my VP of digital, she's kind of incredible. Like I always say, Cassidy, like I could just like hand you a bag of blank and you'll just kind of unravel it and really make a lot of sense into it. Like I'll just say a lot of things and then I'll be like, I'm sorry, I just like literally talked at you for 10 minutes. She's like, I know what we're aligned. And then she's like, how about I put, sort of some numbers against it and we can look at it and we can tweak it and we can model it. And I'm like, great. So like she's very, very good at like creating process and the assembly line
Mm,
procedure to get it done.
yeah.
I will say that I love doing it. I don't have time to do it. I love doing
Right.
this piece, but I don't have time to do it. And the
Mm.
fourth one is actually your ability to be able to like build something like in your head, or do you have to like physically build it? You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like, can you see like the end product and like all the
yeah.
pieces that go into it? Like, I think interior designers are probably really good at this. Like, they must
Yeah.
walk into a room and they're like, I know exactly where like
Boom.
this is all going to look like, and it's so crystal clear. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, I would say like engineers like really like actually need to like glue things together and then understand how it works all together. And then if I do this and what happens here, whereas we see it in our heads, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
We're like,
Right.
I know
Right.
exactly what's going to happen if I replace that bed with a wider bed, or like
Right.
I replace this
I
rug with
move that wall. This is what's going to
like
happen.
my
I'm
whole
just going to
color
open
scheme's
this
going to
up.
change if this
Yeah.
turns into a blue rug versus a brown rug, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that those are really, really, that's a great test to figure out who your first hire or second hire or third hire, or just who you want to
All
surround
of the
yourself.
hires.
Yeah,
All of
who
the
you want to
hires. Like,
surround yourself with. Like who's
yeah.
your bench to keep you like
Yes,
glued up.
yes, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we use the predictive index,
Ah,
and
okay.
it measures different things, but at the end, we're looking for the same stuff, right? Like, and so the predictive index is like, are you a self-starter? Like, do you need tons of direction? Are you a collaborator?
Mm.
Are you the person that will just walk into the room, figure out how to get things done? Or you're like looking around and making sure everybody understands how to get it done, and there's agreement on how it gets done, and then there is the pace.
Mm.
Pace is huge for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, fast pace, slow pace.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
cannot have the person next to me slow pace.
I know.
You cannot
I
be
can
slow
imagine.
and
Yeah.
steady wins the race next to me.
And by
I
the
like
way,
look at
that's
you.
the CEO's job, is like the CEO's job, or as the founder of a firm, you are the one that governs the cadence of how things are done. How many
Yeah.
projects do you take? How soon do you get back to your clients? How quickly do you get an install done? How quickly do you schedule a photographer to come in for like all of these things? It's like the expectations around how fast you move and how fast you decision make is actually entirely the CEO's job.
Right. Right.
And to your point, like we have to move very fast too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's
And
uncomfortable, I think, sometimes even for myself. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God.
well, I mean, what I've learned is that there are many positions in the three companies that I'm a part of running that need the steady
Sure.
pace
Yeah.
personality.
You
You
want
just
finance
can't
people
be
never
right
to, yeah.
next to me.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You just can't sit next to me. You got to be at least one person. There has to be one person in between me and you,
Yeah.
because this is where the phrase "LuAnn is not yelling" comes from,
Yeah.
because I'm like intense. And if you're a slow, steady,
You will be yelled at.
detailed person,
Yeah.
it's not even that I'm yelling at you. You perceive it as, holy crow, she's so intense. I'm like, I'm just talking. Like, like this is just normal.
Yeah.
Like, what do you know? Right.
Yeah.
And then like, but installers, we need slow, steady,
Yeah.
high detailed orientated people.
Measure a
Like,
hundred times, cut once.
that's
Yeah.
right, and, like, they're on an install with a woman, and she's walking around with the vacuum cleaner as he's installing. He's like, "Lady, I didn't even," like, "Give me some space," but he has to be that compassionate, "It's okay, I'm gonna do it." Like, it's so funny because over the years, Vinny, of course, has done his share of installs, and it's a joke. He has absolutely no installer's temperament, none whatsoever. He does have the skill set of an installer, but that's exactly how we began to learn. You know, you can actually know how to technically install, but if you don't have this slow, steady, detailed thing, he's like the third time, he's like, all right, let's just get out of here. We'll just
Yeah.
fix this tomorrow. Like that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, all right, we'll just tie that up behind. Nobody will know. Let's collect our check and go, and Billy's like, please go to the truck. Please
Yeah.
go to the truck.
Right.
Like,
I'm gonna
it's a
steam
big,
this bed sheet
yeah,
out now the 12th
it's,
time and make
yeah,
sure it's
and it's like a
perfect.
big joke that many times over the years they've had to go on an install together. Vinny is now, if they're on an install together, Vinny knows Billy's lead, right? But Vinny will be cleaning up the job as Billy's still installing, and he'll turn around and be like, "Where's my so and so?" And Vinny's like, "Oh, I put it back in the toolbox." He's like, "I'm not done." "Oh, all right, I'll go get it for you." And then, like, he comes back, he's like, "Oh, where's the boxes the blinds were in?" "Oh, I put them in the truck." "Vin, the brackets are still in the box." Like, oh, like Vinny is like on his way out the door from the time he's in the door.
Sure,
And
sure. We
Billy's
know
just
those
like,
people.
dude,
We all
we're
know
going
those
to be
people.
here for
Yeah.
5 hours. Just
Yeah.
take a breath,
Assume it's 7. Yes. Assume it's 7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's so
Anyway,
funny.
so I appreciate all of your insights on that. They're so valuable, so helpful. And I want to make sure that we spend some time to talk about your trade program and what
Oh,
happens over
yay.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, tell me about this. What are the
What
things that designers can get from it? What just like pretend I've
Yeah.
never talked to you before. What is it?
Okay. So it is a one-stop shop, and I truly mean that because we have over 450 brands that we have, that like is easy access. And then we have all the other, I'll call it like to the trade brands like David Sutherland, Holly Hunt, the ones that you get at the D&D building. If you don't know what that is, it's basically like the design decorator building in New York. And then we have all the cheap and cheerfuls that we don't also carry, sort of, I'll call it like the Polywood, those sort of plastic Adirondack chairs that occasionally some of your interior design projects will require, right? Whatever it is.
Mm,
So we're really a one-stop shop for everything. And the reason why this is important is like what we've come to realize is like if you have an office manager and their job is like placing orders, following up with orders, following up with back orders, ensuring that like it's going to meet your install date, finding out like did it get to your receiver, like all of that junk of like completing the job like we actually can do because we recently acquired this 3PL. And the reason, by the way, why we acquired it is because all of our own interior design jobs needed a place to go. So I'll give you an example. LuAnn, your home is in Delray Beach, but your floors aren't done yet. But we've been designing, which is very common, and but we need to like hold your sofa, hold your blinds, hold everything somewhere, and then to do an install at the time in which your floors are done. But like you kind of want to start ordering your stuff just to ensure that your stock is there. And like so this is what we do for our own design projects. And we do them for our projects in the south of France to our projects in the like all over, right? Because we have a whole export function there where we can create and send stuff to Saudi Arabia, wherever you need to be. So we can hold your stuff there and then we can actually do the install for you because
wow.
we actually run our own trucks. And by the way, I will just say that this is easier along the Eastern Seaboard than on the West Coast, but we have partners on the West Coast. We run our own trucks and we actually do the install ourselves. So like my team does the install for you.
Wow.
And that's actually like such a thing of beauty, right? Like you don't have to like do the install. You don't have to show. I mean, you should show up like if you're the client or you're the interior designer. But all of this like is done at such like a low cost compared to like a local receiver. I would say like when I first started this business, LuAnn, you're going to die. I think it was like 3 people in my company. And I remember getting to work every single day. And the first thing that I did was call the delivery company. And that's like my entire job was just like being on the phone with either UPS, FedEx Freight, and then you name it, like a whole smattering of LTL carriers, Metropolitan, Zenith, like Sun Delivery. I would just get on the phone and call and be like, where is it? where's this? Where is this? And it was crazy. It was
Right, like
crazy.
eating up your hours and your productivity and your
I'm like,
time and your
what is
resources.
this? And like, the whole like shipment for like white glove is like, well, it's kind of like it honestly, like we would ship things and we'd be like, Godspeed. Like, I don't even know if you're gonna get it. We have no idea. Those were like the early days, right? We're like, we hope you
Right.
get it. And I guess we would just find out if you didn't get it, they'd be like, where's our stuff? Like I would get the call, where's my stuff? And then I would be calling them, being like, hey, where's this person's stuff? So that's actually like all this, like all the work we do that because we have a whole team for that.
Wow.
Um, and so I just wanted to highlight that benefit. Also, we do have our own interior design, in-house staff, and so those guys actually do support our interior designers as well. And so if like you need CAD support, or if you need rendering support, if you need a draft and elevation, or you simply like, I have too many projects, or like I can't get through this, or I need somebody to help me with like the visualization of this, like our team can actually do it for you at like I'll call it like a wholesale service cost. So we would actually charge you significantly less than you would charge your client, and like we wouldn't talk
Mm,
to your client. We basically just help you do the work, whatever it may be, and then we can put your logo on it, whatever it may be, and we can help you do that. And we do that for quite a lot of clients who frankly are like, we're really too busy and like we have like a couple other things, but it's like not big enough for us to like kind of do it like one on one. And so this is kind of an e-design one. Kathy, do you want to take it? And we're like, sure. And so we'll do all the product procurement. We'll do, the whole thing. And it's like, it's a win-win for everyone, truly.
wow. Wow.
So yeah.
So let me clarify. So, for example, say I'm an interior designer and maybe I have a full house project, right?
Mhm.
And obviously we know the showpiece rooms, right? The living room, the kitchen, the dining room, the great room, the primary suite, right?
Yep.
Whatever those high value real estate are in the house. And maybe I've got a design team of 3 or 4, and this big project is going to take a lot of our attention, but there's the laundry room, there's the kids' bedrooms, there's the secondary areas. Are you saying like you would turn around and like I could say, here's my mood boards for the major parts of the home. This is the style we're going. We're going to go full hog on this, and I'm going to outsource the design for these secondary areas that aren't as critical, aren't as hard to do, and you just need to interpret the overall house of vision. I can turn around and change it once I get it, but it would be almost like having a team of junior designers that are
Totally.
doing this that's still going to come through our filter. Is that
Totally.
what you're saying?
We could
Wow.
absolutely do that. We could totally do that if you're like, I'm going to focus on the more important rooms and you guys focus on like the laundry room and other things. Totally can do
Wow.
that. I think what we do mostly though
Yeah.
is designers who have like incredibly good ideas, but like for some odd reason like don't have the CAD resources or like don't want to do the
Okay.
photoshopping of it all together, and we can
Okay.
support with that. So like they'll be like, well, I want this piece and that one, but like I don't know how it's going to look, and we're like, we'll put it together for you. Like we'll put it in plan. We'll make sure like the furniture layout makes sense, so we can do like the
Gotcha.
technical pieces and putting it together. And or if you're just super busy and you're like, we had a client who had a bunch of mountain homes like in the same, I'll call it like gated community. And so she
Yes.
had a bunch of them to do. And she's like, I don't have time to do all of them. I need them kind of to look slightly different, but like, can you like help us like do the heavy lift on this? And so that's kind of what we did.
Interesting. And when you mentioned at the top of the conversation about the trade program, that it's a one stop shop for 450 brands, the high end brands, all the way to the cheap and cheerful brands, what does that mean? It's like, instead of me placing an order through name any showroom at the D&D building, I place the order through you.
Sure. Yeah, you could do that.
And
And mhm.
And is that because I then bypass, like, say, minimums? Like if a showroom has a $50,000 or $20,000 opening and a 50,000 per year minimum, is that why?
That is one of them. You could bypass minimums by shopping through us. So the biggest piece though is you bypass having to set up your own shipping logistics and your own receiver.
Ah,
So a lot of times if you buy
ah,
direct with one of our vendors, they'll only ship to a business. And so like if you're like, well, this needs to go to my client, you're like, well, I don't know how to do that, right? So like you can bypass the order procurement, you can bypass order management, and you can bypass figuring out shipping. So all you need
okay,
to really just focus on is like doing the stuff that you really enjoy, which is design. And that was like a
okay.
huge like aha moment for me when I started doing interior design was like, how come I'm just calling shippers all day? That's like literally my full-time job.
Right.
So we were like, okay, we have
Because
to
what
fix
you're
this.
saying is if I have, again, either the whole house or 10, clients with, major rooms, if I've got,
Like, let's say you
50,
got
100,000.
you got like 50 or 100 pieces coming, right? Like you got like
Yes.
decor items, you got window treatments, you got rugs, like all, you name it. Yes.
And typically, if I'm spread out across 15 or 20 vendors for those 100 items for a home, I'm figuring out like the receiver for all of that, and I'm
Sure.
having to do all of that conversation. Whereas if I place an order with you for a project, it's all gonna go to actually your company. It's not like you're figuring out the logistics. You're like, we're taking this on.
Correct. We do
You're
all of it. We do all of it. And I think what you'll find out is with certain vendors, we're probably 5% more when you bake in all the shipping. And with certain
mm,
vendors, we're actually cheaper
mm,
because we have like such incredible national freight rates. And so like, it's like we're in the business of shipping things from point A to point B. I mean, really at the end of the day, that's kind of what I do. Like I don't have a design company. I have a shipping company. Um,
yeah.
um,
Right.
but yeah, that's kind of like what it comes down to. And I always like joke around to my kids. I was like, guys, do you actually know how mommy makes money? And they're like, you sell furniture. And I was like, no, it's basically how little I can save on shipping. It's like how little do I spend on shipping is actually how
Yeah,
we
yeah.
make money.
Yeah, yeah,
And amongst other things too. But like, yeah, it's a huge piece to not have to figure out the freight piece and to get
yeah.
it into your client's home.
Interesting. And so if I place an order with you, I'm a designer, and maybe it's a $10,000 order or it's a 50 or $100,000 order, it's multiple items. You are updating me on 22 of your 100 items have reached
Mhm.
our receiver, and
Totally.
now you're at 42 of your 100 items. We're on track for your reveal day. Or guess what? Your reveal day is not going to have the sofa because I've just been notified by XYZ brand that it's back ordered again. Like, but you're doing that whole conversation and
Totally.
just delivering the result of this to the designer.
Exactly right. And so you have like
Mm,
a full-time consolidation like project manager on our team that gives
yeah.
you these updates. So you have one person to speak to. I think the other piece that's like that no one really talks about is like what happens when you send something that's like damaged or the broken, sorry, damage is the same thing as broken. Like a wrong color, like they sending you the wrong color and or like there's a slight defect on it, like the hinge doesn't line up or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
This we also all take care of because we see it, we look at it, we open it, we're like, that's the wrong color. Guess what? Your shade did not come with the base because God knows why they never ship together. But like
Right,
oftentimes
right.
those two things never come at the same time. And so we're responsible for ensuring that like the color is right. We place the order for you. So we take ownership of like ensuring
Oh,
that there's no damages, there's no manufacturing defects, and that your shade is with your base. So,
yes, yeah.
and that is like a
It's
huge piece of it.
it's interesting because, it's funny the horror stories that I've heard around the shipping and the
Oh
receiving
my God,
part of
honey,
it,
we have so many. I like want to do a podcast just on that.
right?
It's
I mean,
shocking.
it's
Yes.
crazy. And the sentences that like a shipper or a receiver will say to a designer. I recently had
Oh my
a
gosh.
chairman of the board client that over the winter she had ordered uh, a thing, I think it was a love seat,
Mm,
and she's there. The delivery person comes. The shipper that she had outsourced it to, whatever, and she's looking at the box that the sofa is in, and she's like, "It looks like a forklift went
went
through
through
this box."
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sure enough, they opened the box, and a forklift actually did go through the box into the sofa,
Bad driving
and
skills.
so
Yeah.
literally, it doesn't get out of the
Anywhere.
driveway. It goes
Yeah.
back on the truck.
Yeah.
Now she's chasing down weeks trying to get it replaced and what's going to happen and when are you sending it and everything. And it finally gets to the shipper again, and she's arranging for the delivery to her client, and the shipper is like, okay, so it's X amount of dollars for, and she's like, no, like the blah blah blah, and he's like, well, that's like the white glove delivery service. She's like, but I didn't get the like
You didn't
I
bring
already
it
paid
in.
that.
Yeah.
And he's like, he literally said to her, he goes, well, you already got it the first time. You have to pay it the second time. She's like, no. See, I'm not paying for white glove delivery for a sofa that never should have left your plant, like
Facility,
your
yes.
your your facility. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, but
It's
she
wild. It's
actually
wild. It's
had to
wild.
push him back, and he had to go higher up the food chain, and then call her back like 2 days later with the, oh yes, you're right, we will deliver that at no charge based on the
Oh,
White Glove fee you
and
paid the
that's like
first time.
4 hours of work and the amount of pain
Yeah,
and suffering and, like,
that's what
energy
she said. She
drain.
goes, the amount of time I spent on this phone call, it's like beyond. And I'm just like,
And it
how
makes
does
you
anybody?
question whether or not you wanna be an interior designer. You're like, "Wait a second." You're like, "I really cannot be dealing with this right now. Like, I have to
No.
do other things that, are better for, like, it's worth my hourly rate." You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, to me, like through the chairman of the board coaching and the events that I do, like the stories that I hear, I'm just like, wait, what? Like they said, what? You know,
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not
We
thinking.
get it
They're
all
just not
day, all
thinking.
day, all day. We get it all day. And you know what? The shippers don't really care because, like, they kind of have a monopoly. Like, you're really shipping
Yeah.
through either FedEx or UPS. Do you think they actually care? They
No.
kind of don't. So you have to work with somebody who's like a really, really good, insurance umbrella, which we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So we're kind of
Yeah.
like, all right, well, this is just running through insurance. So,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're not going up the food chain at UPS or FedEx.
No, 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 no. I
Yeah,
mean, over the years, I've had my share of having to fight with UPS or FedEx over the years. And, it takes a heck of a lot to come out on the top of that debate.
yeah,
Like it
yeah.
does,
It's yeah,
because you have no hammer, you have no
no
leverage.
hammer. Yes, you have
Like you
no
don't, you
hammer.
just don't, right? It's
No
like,
hammer.
I'm really mad at you. Oh, that's great, Luann.
And
We're,
do you
we're really
remember,
upset
like,
about that.
all through COVID, like, no one had a hammer. Like,
No.
you were like, you get what you get and you don't get upset. You're like, "Great, I ordered a sofa and I got a dining table and cool, I'll take it. I got something." Because most people are waiting 2 years.
I know, I know. I remember we were getting emails from Hunter Douglas every 2 to 4 weeks. Hey, we were running at 2 weeks delivery. Now we're running at 8. Now we're running at 12. Now we're running at 16. Now we're running 20.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you got your consumer going, I don't care. And I'm like, that's awesome that you don't care. It's still a truth, though. It's still a truth. Here's the email from Hunter. The
Yeah.
crap is sitting in the port. They can't get it off the
So hard.
the
So
boats.
hard.
It's like nuts.
So hard. Yeah, and
Totally
we
nuts.
definitely had to manage through that crisis as well, and I will say, like, for us, like, we over communicated. That was, like, our strategy. We were like,
Yes.
we're gonna get ahead of it so you never call us. Like, we're gonna tell you in
Ah,
advance, and we're gonna tell you,
smart.
like, and I think the strategy there was, like, after 3 times, we're gonna have to call you,
Yeah, yeah,
and we're
yeah.
gonna make sure you pick up the phone so you understand, but, like, that was so hard. That was such a hard
Oh,
time.
it was brutal. It was
Yeah.
brutal. It was absolutely, other than the recession that Vin and I had to endure in 92, 93, that was, uh, you know, that was, the recession was harder because we were unprepared for it. And we didn't manage it right. And I have a whole talk about, the learning lessons of that. And then when 2008 happened, we sailed through it. But that was
Amazing.
harder emotionally because I really thought we were going to lose the business.
Mm.
But this was harder, just feeling like I keep saying the same thing and all. Like, I remember one time our lead installer, our outside blew up. Obviously, our
Mm.
outside exterior awning business blew up. Everybody was living outside, right?
Mhm.
So we go from 6-week lead time to 20-week lead times. Like, the summer in New Jersey is not 20 weeks long.
Yeah.
Like, so you get it. Like, you're pissed that you ordered it in July and I'm still in October without it, right? But I can remember very distinctly our lead exterior installer, Carlos, fell off a ladder 17 feet high
Mm. Oh,
in
no.
August, broke his ankle,
Oh,
not
no.
a regular break, not your average, regular break, a break that he was not on the ladder again until February.
Oh, geez.
Okay. Like, yeah, it was a huge, combination, compound, whatever the things are.
Oh, wow.
But literally within 3 or 4 days, the other 3 installers I had, 2 got COVID.
Ugh.
So now I'm sitting with one installer. I don't know about you, Kath, but you cannot install an awning with one man. Somebody has to hold the other 500 or 600 pounds of this thing. And I go 2.5 weeks without installation on product that finally came in, and I'm like, hey, we're scheduled. And now I got to call 2.5 weeks worth of people that have been waiting 20 weeks. And if I had one more person say to me, I hear everything, Lynn, and I'm sorry for your installer that is hurt, and I'm sorry for the ones, because this is also when COVID, you didn't know if you were going to die from it. Like, this is
Sure.
not COVID now. This
Yeah.
is like, holy crap. Like, our people have COVID,
Yeah.
right? And it was like, but, we've been waiting all summer to use our patio, and we are homeschooling our kids outside, so I'm going to need the awning. And I'm like, yeah, that's so fun, because you're a lunatic and I can't even talk to you anymore.
Yeah. Oh,
It was
yeah.
it was a hard time. It was a hard time. And, it was the biggest single most longest time that I had to lock my inside voice down for the longest time. Like, I literally would be like, there were moments when I would get so, and I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, the other line's ringing, hang on, or hang on, and they would look at me, they're ready to do. I'm like, oh no, I'm walking it off. I'm
Right.
going to do some jumping jacks. I'm going to scream a little bit. I'm going in the hallway. And then
Yeah.
I'm coming like, so Mrs. Smith, as
Yeah.
we were saying,
Yeah.
I can give you
know.
November 5th.
No.
Like, I get that it's October 1st, but November 5th, I should. And that's, by the way, I wanted to say, if one of my installers doesn't pass away from COVID, you lunatic, like, come
Right.
on. Like, I am like, literally, this is like, I'm handling it like it's a flu. Like, he's out sick. He's going to be back. I don't know that. We're terrified for our people.
Right.
Insane. Absolutely insane.
That's hilarious.
Oh my God. It's crazy. It's like the whole thing I always say, 4 decades in business, the stories. Like, we should just have a rant podcast on all the lunatics we've had conversations with.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, you are a superstar. Forget hashtag smart lady. You're a hashtag superstar. Your insights, your lessons, it's so clear what an intentional, thoughtful leader you are. You really, it's like you're one of the few people that every time I talk to you, I'm like, oh, hell with it. I'm quitting my day job. I want to work for Kathy. like I just
Oh,
like,
honey, please. I would love that. I would love that.
It's just, it's inspiring to hear you talk about the way you lead your company and the people in it. It really is. So before you go, tell us how they find out about the trade program, though. So in case designers want to learn more about it.
Yes. So if you are not part of our trade program, you just have to go to Kathy Kuo Home, which is our website. You can click on to the trade, which is on the top navigation, and then you can apply for trade. And usually within 24 hours, you will be approved. And if you don't do that, you can also just email us at trade@kathykuohome.com. And don't forget the home piece. You got to add that piece in.
Okay. And so they have to have a business entity number and all of the things, right? They have to be legit working designers.
Yeah. And the reason why this is important is actually your resale certificate and your number gets automatically updated into this tool called, we don't have to get into it, but basically the IRS looks at all of them. So we can't, there's no
messing around with it.
Yeah, we can't have missing resale certificates. So yes,
that's
have a resale certificate.
I know we often have to, we're at the end of the year, we're like chasing sometimes the resale certificates from the different designers that we work, like, oh yeah, because it's not automated, right? It's just, what we do. So, well, this has been outstanding. I appreciate you so much. And this is just, so fun.
Well, I appreciate you too, LuAnn. Yeah. And I'll see you soon, hopefully. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. I'm so glad that Kathy and I decided to tackle this topic today, because what I hope you see from this conversation is that values aren't just a thing you do to tick a box on your business checklist. They aren't just an inspirational piece you look back on from time to time for the sake of admiring your own creative talent in writing inspirational prose. When done right, values make hard decisions in your business easier. Who to hire, how to handle meetings and tough conversations, and the inevitable issue of who and when to fire. These aren't easy things to decide by themselves, but they become so much clearer when you've taken the time to determine your values. And when you are talking about them, creating this culture with your entire staff, using them in performance reviews and feedback, tough issues are going to come up less and become easier to handle when they do come up. If you're on the verge of bringing in that first employee, or if it's something you've done recently, I can guarantee you that this work is work that needs to be done. It isn't easy to cross the bridge, to start bringing in the next person and passing off work so that you can focus on CEO level responsibilities. And one of the hardest parts is coming to terms with the idea that somebody else is going to be taking on responsibility, control, and representing you and your business. But your values are how you shape the culture and maintain it. And if you're farther down the line in that, but you haven't done this work, I want you to take a moment to think about any conflict you might have had, tough situations that have arisen, maybe somebody who's rocking the boat and keeping things from running smoothly. Maybe it's not going to come to you right away, but I would guess that whatever is not aligning, whatever is going wrong, I'll bet it somehow reflects on the issue of a value at the core of it. It might be empathy and somebody isn't treating peers with respect. It might be consistency and somebody is dropping the ball. It could be any number of things based on who you are and what values you have, what you want from and for your business, and who else is in the kitchen that's not meeting those values. But I can almost guarantee that values are going to end up being part of that equation for good or bad. I want to challenge you to take the time to do this. Don't put it in the someday maybe back burner, right? Don't let it fall off your to-do list. I know this is the kind of thing that can feel fluffy, but I hope listening to Kathy and the way it shows up in her business day to day, there's nothing fluffy about that. She's running a huge company and daily conversations are around their core values, okay? Now, we put together a list of 40 typical values. Okay, this is by no means every value out there, and your value or values may not even appear on the list. But sometimes it just helps to get the ball rolling instead of looking at the blank page, right? And so go to LuAnnNiagara.com/goodies and you'll get that list. Give it some thought. Cross off the things that are like, are you kidding me? And give some thought to the things that just kind of hit a nerve with you, right? Now, I have to say, before I wrap up, do you know that we are on the road to 1,000? Have you heard about that? Do you know what that means? Yes, we are on the road to 1,000 episodes. When I think about how much time, how many experts, how many lessons and aha moments have we shared, are you kidding me right now? 1,000 episodes, it's a lot. We're celebrating with a countdown of our top episodes from each year, 2016 through 2023. So be sure to be following me on social media and get the list of episodes each week, all right? Or better yet, get on my email list because we're going to email you the episodes each week that are the top 5 listened to from each year, from 2016 to 2023. You don't want to miss that. Links will be in the show notes. All right, Kathy, my friend, my sweet lady, you're such an inspiration. I have to say, every time I have a conversation with you, I think I got to do better. I got to do more. I got to lock it up. You're an incredible businesswoman. You're an incredible woman. And I'm grateful that we're friends. And I'm grateful that you chose to spend some time with me here today and with my listeners. And thank you for listening, for showing up. You know how much I appreciate you. Please know that. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of LuAnn Niagara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or LuAnn University, go to LuAnnNiagara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to WindowWorksNJ.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.